Well, good evening and welcome to the Bloody York Gin Tour. Oh, you're in for a treat tonight. So my name is Susannah and I work at the York Gin Shop in the centre of York, and this is my colleague Jo. Hi, Jo.
Hello. My goodness, we have got a treat. We're really excited, aren't we, Susannah?
We cannot wait. So welcome if you normally join us on a Friday, and welcome to all our new people as well. Hello.
Yes,
welcome.
indeed. I don't have a drink yet, but I will do in a minute.
We will do in a minute. So we're a very young company. We've only been going about 2 years, can you believe it? But we have already won this year the best shop in York. Can you believe it, Jo? Well, I can believe it, to be honest.
Undoubtedly the best shopping. Oh, goodness me, there's me looking about 19 and you looking about 12.
Talking about our beautiful building. It's a stunning building and we love working there. Of course, it's closed at the moment and we're sorry about that. Obviously, we're still online at www.yorkgin.com and all our lovely gins are there. We're making cocktails later. But I've already got one, Jo, and you haven't got one. Tell us what's
I'm going to tell everyone how to make one of these so that we can all get together. Oh, that's better. I can see what I'm doing now. Ooh. Right. So in honour of our wonderful guest tonight, I am going to make you a Bloody Alice cocktail. Now, there might be a bit of a clue in the name there. If you don't know who's coming up, you might be guessing. Anyway, so what we need for our Bloody Alice cocktail is 2 shots of York London Dry. Now, I've only got my engraved one left from Christmas. Oh, Merry Christmas, Bunny, my best friend, from my lovely boy. So there's 2 shots of that, and then you are going to add in a nice big squish of lemon juice. So the small end of the cocktail bit, we don't usually use that in this show, but the small end for your lemon, and then you're going to top it up with tomato juice. Now I actually like quite a long drink, so here we go with the tomato juice. And there wasn't any in local shop for local people, so I had to spritz up a tin of tomatoes, and that's fine now. There we go. And then you add in, well, it's to taste really. Well, they recommend about 7 drops of Tabasco. I've probably put about 10 because I like it really spicy, and about 4 drops of Worcester sauce, which is where I was born. Worcester. Yeah. So you give that a good shush up. Lots and lots of ice, because you and I like it really cold, don't we, Susie? And then you garnish it with a nice big celery stick. I actually blue peated mine. I dipped it earlier with using lemon juice to create the sticky bit, and dipped it in celery, salt, and black pepper. So that should be very nice.
It should be. Well, I did exactly the same, Jo. So we've got the same in our glasses. And
I just quickly forgot my lemon wheel. I made such a nice lemon wheel. I've got to show you it. So that's going in as well. We can't forget the lemon wheel. In it goes.
All right.
So, Susannah, shall we have a toast to our guest?
Tell us what she's won first.
Our guest tonight has won the guided tour of the year last year, and this year she's just won this year's Visit York Tourism Award Best Experience. So what about that? Oh, and she likes a drop of York gin. Hurrah!
Yes. Now what do we say? Cheers! Cheers,
to Mad Alice! Woo!
How are you this evening?
Hello, great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I washed for you today. It's been a while, so I thought I'd scrub up nicely. But thank you so much for inviting me to join you this evening to sample some of your gins. I've got the
thank you for coming. It's a very good fit
in front of me.
I'm
already thinking this is going to be a night I'm going to forget. So
yeah, let's go for it. Cheers, love.
Cheers! Thank you very much.
This tour was actually,
that's strong.
It coincided with the launch of our outlaw gin, didn't it? So our outlaw gin was made for our first anniversary. It's our navy strength, for bad girls and boys only, isn't it? And you're going to tell us all about some cracking bad boys.
I am indeed. So as you rightly said, this gin tour was to launch with the celebration of the outlaw gin. So it's only been running for about a year. Oh, look, there's a picture. Those are
brilliant.
Gin directors. We got them to dress up as various characters, all characters I will be telling you about this evening. So you can see Emma, Paul, Harry and Pete there as well. But of course, here in York, we have more outlaws than I think anywhere else in the country. So I'm going to tell you all the dark and gruesome and also spooky goings on that have happened in the last 2,000 years. And what you can normally expect on these gin tours, it's a 2-hour walking tour of the city, which is all about the history of York, the history of gin, the story behind York gin, because there's some rather interesting varieties there. And we get to stop at 3 different taverns around the city centre, and you will sample 3 of the 5 different York gin. So obviously the tours are on hold at the minute, so we've decided that we'd actually bring the tour into your own house. So there is the map of the city which will be going around, and I shall be telling you whereabouts we will be as well for each of our gins and each of our famous characters as well.
Fantastic.
Isn't it exciting?
It is. I actually was lucky enough to go on the very first bloody York gin.
You
tour.
were,
I
you
can
were
recommend it.
Jo. And Susannah, you were there in spirit.
It's a cardboard cutout.
Yeah,
I was
in a foreign exotic land somewhere, so you were.
Yeah, but we never left her out. She came with me in my handbag everywhere we went.
Exactly. I was with you in spirit.
Always.
Absolutely. And Jo, you can actually credit yourself as being one of the founders of the gin tour, because it's specifically because of you that's why we've decided to leave the strongest gin at the very end. Because I don't know if you recall what happened.
No idea.
Yeah. The thing is with these tours, I say that they're 2-hour walking tours, but the trouble is, this happens and I forget what I'm doing. So there was one poor tour group that had me for about 5 hours in the end. So I have no idea what I was saying by the end of the tour. So hopefully,
brilliant.
We'll probably be there again tonight, to be fair.
But it's Friday.
Exactly. And I should mention, those of you watching us at home, if you don't have your York gins ready to hand, you can order them online. And if you are lucky enough to live in the city centre, you can actually have York gin delivered to your very doorstep. And they're so good that you can order now and they'll be there tomorrow. So
and it's free delivery in York.
It is free delivery, yes. Now, they're usually very good at delivering. They usually arrive within sort of about 24 hours if they can. But I must confess, I was promised these York gins last week by the people of York Gin. And this is not a slight on them. This is them knowing me a little bit too well, that they knew if they delivered them to me any sooner than yesterday, there would be nothing for us to consume tonight.
Filling it up with water and pretending.
Yeah.
Don't tell them. So yes, so these are fully equipped, full of gin, ready for this evening. So, how are you getting on with your spicy bloody Alices?
Absolutely stunning. I love it.
They are nice. And if they are extra spicy, that means you've really got the spirit of Mad Alice. So that's absolutely fair.
Mad Alice, where do we start?
I'm going to add another Tabasco.
Well, let's start at the very beginning, as they say. And I'm actually going to take you outside the city walls. We're heading over to the Knavesmire, which is actually the race course nowadays. So you can spend your money away there. So we've got the map coming up, and you can see it's highlighted. It's about a mile outside the city walls, and you can see the gallows is highlighted there. We're going to start how we mean to go on and start with my favorite topic of conversation: executions. I love exciting. So for this very first execution I'm going to tell you about at the York Tyburn, this one happened in 1809. It was a lady by the name of Mary Bateman who was executed for her crime of murder. Now, Mary Bateman is more commonly known as the Yorkshire Witch, so there's definitely some stories that we can dig into there. But as appropriate, I say, with each of the characters, oh look, there's Mary Bateman. There's also Emma, one of the directors of Gory, as Mary Bateman, concocting her own potions there as well. So she takes her art and craft very, very seriously. But as with the gin tour, we've actually themed the cocktails tonight to relate to each of the characters. So because I'm going to delve into the story of Mary Bateman, but you need to have your gin sorted. So I'm going to pass you over to Susannah, who will show you how to make your very own witch's brew.
is a little, we're going to do something for Mary Bateman, and she was also known as a poisoner. So I've made a cocktail called the Poisoner's Potion. And here we go. We're going to start with our cocktail shaker. I've already put some ice in there. I've got my cocktail, my spirit measurer, but as we know, there is only one side of a spirit measurer. And I'm going to use your gin classic, London Dry, I think. So we're going to put one of those in there. Actually, one of mine is a big one, but that's okay. There we go. In one goes like that. And then I'm going to use some triple sec. I'm going to use exactly the same quantity of triple sec. In there it goes as well. And then I've got Lillet Blanc or Lillet Blanc, depending how you say it. It's an aperitif. It is a little bit like a dry vermouth, but it's a wine-based aperitif, but it's really quite low. Okay, so I've put one of each of those in there. The next thing I'm going to do is put some lemon juice, which I have already got in the glass there. There we go. And then I'm going to put a little bit of absinthe. And of course, there's lots of tales about absinthe. Just look at the colour of it, though. It is quite incredible. I'm just going to put a little couple of dashes in there, not too much. And then I'm going to put a tiny amount of sugar syrup in there, just to take any harsh edges off there. Okay. I'm going to put my cocktail lid on. This is where we hope it all stays together. I'm going to give it a bit of fry and Laurie, a bit of a shake up. And then I'm going to pour that in to my cocktail glass there. And then what I'm going to do is one I, in my Blue Beauty fashion, made earlier, a beautiful lemon twist. I'm going to pop that in the top there. And there you go. Mary Bateman, we salute you. You're a bad lady, but we still salute you. The Poisoner's Potion. Cheers.
There we go.
Cheers.
I've got my Poisoner's Potion right there. And I must confess, you did say a dash of absinthe. Well,
I did.
Yeah, I don't believe in dashes, so I just put my whole thing in. So I have the tea absinthe just there.
Yeah, but if I'd have put the whole thing in, what would have happened?
Oh, it would be a good online thing tonight, wouldn't it, if you put the entire bottle in there, definitely.
Evening over. And of course, do you know that absinthe bars, just as an aside, they have a green light outside them to signify that they are indeed absinthe. I went to one in, my son took me to one in Liverpool. I actually confess that I did actually drink gin. I did not drink the absinthe. But I'm quite surprised how much I like that.
It's very nice.
The absinthe gives it a little kick, doesn't it?
It was known in Paris as La Fille Verte, which basically means the green fairy. So I think after a few of these, we might either see the green fairy or we might see Mary Bateman. You never know.
I think if we have more of these, I really like that. That's really good.
It is nice. I mean, like I say, I put a bit too much absinthe that it is blowing my mind in a good way.
But good way.
You better tell us about Mary Bateman, the naughty minx.
Hang on. Right, there we go. I have to put my glass down so I'm not distracted. But Mary Bateman, the Yorkshire witch, she was born just outside of York, actually in 1768. And she took up working as a servant girl at a household in Thirsk. But she decided after a time, actually, she'd probably be better off working as a fortune teller over in Leeds. And this is where she actually managed to convince a lot of people that she had magical powers. She could make a potion or an ointment that would help you if you had some sort of ailment, if you were being haunted by demons or evil spirits. Her concoctions would actually get rid of them for you. And it turns out you can actually make a pretty fine living by doing this. So off the back of witchcraft is a pretty decent wage coming in. So if this all goes wrong, I know what I'm doing. But just in case. But things seem to take a bit of a downward spiral for Ms. Bateman when a married couple came knocking on her door. You see, they were troubled because the wife, Rebecca Perigo, was actually suffering from what she called malard spirits. These evil spirits were trying to possess her, and it was taking its toll on the marriage. So Mary said, you know what? I can help you with this. So if you cross my palm with silver for a pricely sum, I will make a magical powder that you need to bake into a pie and consume when there is a full moon. And if you do that, then the spirits will leave you alone. Your life will be long and happy. Your marriage will be absolutely fruitful and lovely as well. So the couple took this magical powder home. And as instructed, Rebecca waited for the full moon and she baked the powder into the pie and she sat down with her husband to eat it. Well, the husband took one bite of the pie and went, "Ugh, that's absolutely foul. I'd rather live with the evil spirits than eat the rest of that pie." So he didn't touch any more of it. But Rebecca, thinking it was doing her some good, she continued to eat and eat and eat until there was nothing left of the pie. Well, that evening, as they were going up to bed, Rebecca suffered a very violent seizure. She was writhing around the floor in pain, clutching her stomach. She started foaming at the mouth, and within minutes, she was dead. She had left this world for good. Her husband, thinking he might have actually upset these evil spirits, decided he would go to the authorities and tell them exactly what happened to Rebecca in this fit of violence. And he also mentioned the fact that he had sought help from a local witch, Miss Mary Bateman. The authorities got very suspicious about this, and he said, "So she said to bake a pie with a powder. Have you still got any of this powder left?" So the husband said, "Actually, yes, I've got my untouched portion of the pie." So they went back to the house, had a look at this potion, and that's when the authorities discovered that the magical powder she had given was in fact arsenic.
Oh my God.
Very naughty woman indeed. So Mary was quickly arrested and brought here to the courthouse in York. She was incarcerated over at the female prison, which is situated where the York Castle Museum is now today. So you can actually go into the Castle Museum and see some of the original cells there. But because she had this reputation of being the Yorkshire Witch, well, she became a bit of a celebrity. So people flocked to go bribe the guards over at the prison to see if they could catch a glimpse of this Yorkshire Witch themselves. But she was put on trial and was eventually sentenced to be executed. Now, I ask you a question, Susannah. As a witch, how do you think we execute witches in this country?
Well, I would always say burning.
Okay, burning. Jo, I put a question to you. How many witches were actually burned in this country?
700.
700. Oh, you're going quite high. You must know a lot of witches then. Well, I confess that the total number of witches that were actually burned in this country is 0. No witches were ever burned at the stake in England. Burning at the stake was an execution that was reserved for heretics. The idea that if you didn't believe in the one true faith, you would feel the flames of hell lapping at your toes. But all witches in this country were actually hanged. So, of course, Mary Bateman was no exception to this, and she was taken out to the racecourse, to the York Tyburn, or the three-legged mare, as we used to call it back in the day, and she was hanged for the crime of murder. But like I say, celebrity, the Yorkshire Witch, she actually drew a crowd of 30,000 people who were specifically there to see her execution. The whole reason why they were there is because, remember, she was a witch. She could disappear at any moment as the noose was being placed about her neck. She could have the hounds of hell come and take her away and save her from the noose. So that's what they were expecting to see. And as you can imagine, they were sorely disappointed because none of that hocus pocus stuff actually happened in the end. But as with the typical fashion back in the 19th century, if you were executed as a criminal, you were denied a Christian burial and your body would be given over to the physicians at the local hospitals. So Mary was given over to the surgeons at the Leeds General Infirmary and she was placed on a cart, and the horse and cart would take her the 20 miles from York to Leeds. Well, people still wanted to see if Mary Bateman was in fact dead. So 20,000 people actually walked behind her body on the cart all the way to Leeds General Infirmary. And there it said an additional 4,000, so 20,000 people altogether, actually paid 3p each to go and see the body of Mary Bateman, just in case she would wake up. But of course, she never did. And the other thing physicians would do at the time with the cadavers of these criminals, they would actually take their skin, strip it from the bones, and they tended to use these strips of skin to actually bind books, of all things. But what's interesting about what they did with the strips of Mary Bateman's body is that they actually decided they could make a bit of profit off this, and they sold them as grisly and ghoulish souvenirs, and they were marketed as if you had these strips of Mary Bateman, you would be protected from evil spirits entirely.
Oh
And
my God.
is the story of Mary Bateman, the Yorkshire Witch.
Oh, cheers.
I need a bit of this after all that.
I know.
That's gross.
As you can see from that image there, I was fortunate to meet Mary Bateman. I did drink the potion she gave me. Funnily enough, I didn't eat the pie that she offered me at the time. So I left that to her. But just up until recently, you could actually go see the skeleton of Mary Bateman over at the Thackeray Medical Museum in Leeds. But I believe that they have taken it down now out of respect for her family. But yes, that's just the tip of the iceberg of the stories I've got for you this evening.
All right.
Oh no, I'm glad this was a strong one.
I tell you,
Isn't it?
I'm still enjoying my Mary Bateman, but I'm hoping there's no skin in it, to be honest. But there we go.
Ew.
Now that I've said that, because I put fresh lemon in, the bits of lemon floating around actually do look like little bits of string.
Stop it. You're both gross.
Oh, move us on. For goodness sake, move us
Where
on.
are we going
Shall we
next,
move on?
Mad Alice?
Well, I'm going to take you into the realm of the supernatural, and we're going to move just into the city walls, just behind York Minster. You can see it highlighted there on your map. I am taking you to the Treasurer's House, which is supposedly one of the most haunted buildings in York. There it is in all its splendour. There's actually been a house on that site since the early 12th century, and the building that you see there was rebuilt between the 15th and 16th century. So it's a lovely Jacobean house there, which is now owned by the National Trust. It is open to visitors, but as with so many things in the current climate, it's temporarily closed, but it will be reopening, and you can actually venture down into the cellar of the Treasurer's House and hear the story of one of the city's most famous ghost tales. Now, this actually links into one of the York gins that we have, the Roman fruit. So those of you that are local to the city will know exactly which tale I'm going to go in. But for now, I'm going to hand you over to Jo, who does have in her hand the Roman fruit gin.
I do. Here we do. Now, I am going to make you a bloody good Roman fizz. Wow, what else? Okay, so look, you normally just put in. So I've got a nice champagne glass. Oh, I'm knocking things about. Champagne glass with a drop of lemon and some ice cubes. Now, because of this grisly, gruesome tales that we are doing, I am actually going to serve the Roman fruit via a syringe. I feel this calls for a cackle. So I'm dribbling that into my... Oh, look at that. Not bad, eh? Nom, nom, nom. Right. And then you top it up with champagne. I just happened to find this in the back of my fridge. Hurrah for Harvey Nichols mini champagnes. I think I had it for Christmas last year. So I'm going to top that up with that. Oh, what a lovely sound. Give it a little squeeze out. A little stir. Cheers.
Cheers. That looks
Cheers.
smashing.
I put strawberries in mine.
That
I
is
don't have a fancy
bloody good
champagne
Roman
glass.
fizz. Oh, strawberry. Look at you decadent wench, you.
Absolutely. I
I
don't
was
have a
supposed
fancy
to have
glass.
fresh raspberries on there, but I forgot to get them out, so I've got
That's
no
all right.
fresh fruit. You can do the fresh fruit for me, Mad Alice.
I will. To be honest, I normally neck it straight from the bottle anyway. So drinking from a glass.
Oh,
is a
you're
new
such a
concept for me.
classy wench. Classy wench.
Absolutely. Well, inspired by the Roman fruit, we are a Roman city built in 71 AD when the Romans first came to us. And this story, like I say, it takes place down in the basement of the treasurer's house. And it happened in 1953 when a young man called Harry Martindale was down there doing some work. And he was hammering a hole in the wall. He suddenly heard in the distance the sound of a single note from a trumpet horn. That's actually a left cheek sneak there that you can hear. But it was the sound of a trumpet horn. And thinking it was something happening outside, he didn't pay too much attention to it. So he carried on with his work until he realised that the sound was growing louder and louder and appeared to be coming from behind the solid wall that he was working up against. So as he looked down from his ladder to work out where this noise was coming from, he was surprised to see that from out of the wall in front of him stepped the figure of a Roman soldier.
You would be kind of surprised, wouldn't you?
You'd be more than surprised. Well, in a state of shock and panic, Harry fell off his ladder, scrambled into the corner of the room as these soldiers emerged from the wall and gradually but steadily walked from one side of the room to the other and disappeared through the opposite wall. No sooner had this solitary soldier disappeared when a great big black cart horse emerged from the wall, and on top of the horse, another Roman soldier. The horse followed exactly the same path and disappeared. But then after this, more soldiers began to emerge from the wall, walking side by side in pairs. Harry counted about 20 of them altogether. So you can imagine it was a terrifying sight. But what was unique about these figures was that they were actually looked like real people, meaning that they were solid figures. So they weren't see-through, how you think ghosts to be. He could make out all the details of their dress, right down to the mud stains on their clothes. He could see they had these bronze weather-beaten helmets on with undyed plumes of feathers out the top. And he could even see the weapons they were carrying. Some of them were carrying spears, others were carrying short swords on their right side. And in their left arms, they had these round shields with raised centres. But when it came to their feet, Harry noticed something quite peculiar. They were only visible from the knees upwards. So as they walked into the room, it looked like they were walking on their knees. And it wasn't until they actually stood in a trench that had been dug out in the centre of the room that that's when their feet became visible. And they could even see the straps of the sandals laced all the way up to the knee. When he was certain that the last of these soldiers had disappeared through the wall and the sound of the trumpet horn had died down, Harry quickly picked himself up and legged it out of the cell. Don't blame him. He ran straight into the curator of the building, who took one look at Harry, and before Harry could tell him anything about what he'd just seen, the curator turned to him and said, "Oh dear, from the look of you, you've just seen our Roman soldiers downstairs, haven't you?" So Harry wasn't the first person, nor was he the last, but he has become the most famous person to witness these soldiers. And the reason being is because of what happened in the years that followed. You see, not very many people believed Harry when he first came out with his story in 1953, but in 1969, archaeologists began excavating underneath the central tower of York Minster. So you'd seen on that map that the treasurer's house is literally just around the back of the Minster. And there they were surprised to find the remains of the Roman headquarters building, a building known as the Principia. And alongside these findings, they actually discovered one of the major Roman roads of the city. This is a road that starts from the headquarters building, runs underneath the treasurer's house and out to the gate on the northeast side of the city. They found this Roman road buried 18 inches below the cellar floor.
No.
So if you think of the depth of 18 inches, which is roughly the same length from your knee down to your foot, this would explain why Harry wasn't able to see their feet when they first appeared, because they were walking along their original road. Are you still
That's so spooky.
That's really spooky.
So that's just one of the tales that the treasurer's house does have to offer. But I have an exclusive for you this evening, which is very exciting. You see, as I mentioned, there are around about 35 ghosts of the Treasurer's house, and I spend a lot of time at the Treasurer's house, and I was there not so long ago. In fact, it was the week of Halloween when I got talking to a lady who had been around the property during that day, and she was taking various photographs in each of the rooms, and she was drawn to this particular Victorian mirror situated in one of the rooms. Making sure that nobody else was around in the room, she took a quick snap of her, and here you can see the actual live photograph that she captured. So not only can you see the figure moving behind her, can you see it moving from...
Yeah, absolutely.
All the boomerang going on. But if you look very carefully at this image, you'll notice that not only does it appear that the woman is actually wearing some sort of white nightgown, she also seems to be transparent. So who is this mysterious figure that's seen walking behind her? She did say at the time she was taking the photograph, she did feel a gust of wind behind her, but assuming it was an open window, she didn't really pay too much attention. And it was only
my gosh.
back at the images that she realised that's not right. That's
I'm glad that wasn't me.
Oh, no, you see, it's a good thing, isn't it? And that was only taken. So the spirits of the Treasurer's house do like to pick their timings. That was actually taken the week of Halloween. So there you go. Once it reopens, get yourselves in there, see what's going on. But are you ready for the next story?
Oh my goodness.
Please, Mad Alice.
Well,
I'm
going
going now.
Stick with the spooky and ghost theme for now, and we're going to head just around the front of York Minster. We're going to go to a place called the York Theatre Royal. Now, I'm aware that some people who are watching us live, in particular Richard there, he actually works at the York Theatre Royal, so he should be able to verify my stories of the Grey Lady Ghost. But there is the image of the Theatre Royal. It's a spectacular building. Was originally built in 1744. So it's a Georgian theatre, but the facade that you see there is actually a Victorian Gothic revival architecture. The theatre is actually built on top of what is Europe's oldest and largest medieval hospital, St. Leonard's. And this hospital was actually run by monks and nuns. And we think one particular nun ties into the figure of the mysterious Grey Lady. But I'm going to pass you over to Susannah, who's going to give us a very spooky cocktail to go along with it.
Oh, right. Well, I'm going to make you a blue ghost. Now, first of all, I've got my cocktail shaker. I'm going to pop a big lump of ice in there. Now, I'm going to be using the York Gin Grey Lady. And the reason I'm going to use that is because it was specially commissioned by the Theatre Royal for their anniversary. Oh, do you know what? I'm feeling quite generous tonight. So I'm going to put, obviously, the big side. We're going to use our Grey Lady. In there, you've got some added citrus. You've got a little tiny touch of Earl Grey tea. And you've also got some blue pea flower, which gives it this kind of slightly eerie. Oh, actually, you can see that quite nicely. It's got kind of bluey colour to it, quite ghostly. And I'm feeling generous. I'll give it another one. There we go. In we go there. Super. So next in there, I'm going to make it extra blue. It's already blue. I'm going to put some blue curacao, and I'm only going to use one measure of that because it's quite blue. I'm right. Not quite thoughts in there as well, but it's very blue. And then I'm going to put some lemon juice in there as well. I'm going to put my lid on. As usual, I'm going to give it a lovely shake. I'm going to give it a strain. Oh, look at that. That is perfect. And the perfect amount is as if I measured it and everything. And in there, I'm going to put a really beautiful thin lemon wheel. I'm just in the top there. There you go. To the blue lake, to the blue.
The Grey Lady, or the Blue Ghost, as we're calling it.
Blue ghost.
I don't have any blue curacao, so I'm still Roman fizzing. Cheers.
There it is. Lovely.
I think this could actually be my favourite so far. I mean, I am living my best life right now, being surrounded by gin and cocktails and
I remember having blue curacao at my 21st birthday party. Emma, one of the directors of York Gin, obviously, is actually my niece, and we were there. making lots and lots of these. We thought we were the height of sophistication using this stuff. Like, ooh, blue, it's a blue cocktail. Marvellous.
I'm getting the citrus. I'm getting a really lovely citrus kick to it.
I'm just getting the gin. I'm quite happy with the gin.
You neck it back, Mad Alice. It's fine.
I will indeed. I'd just like to put a little shout out to Justin Hudson, who's actually putting Mad Alice. We're only 25 minutes away from seeing Drunk Alice. Like, I'm like quite naive, but it's going to take me 25 minutes.
I'd give it 5.
We're almost there.
Give it 5.
I'd give it less than that if I were you.
I don't normally do shout outs, but Richard Allen, I don't know what's happened about the champagne in your fridge.
Yeah, he never forgets any champagne as well. As is Darren Scott show.
It should have nothing, no food, just champagne.
There we go. See, I can't even afford champagne. I'm on Carver.
As I say, it was actually a Christmas present. I'd forgotten it was there because it's so small.
It is so small.
It's not like you to have a small one, Jo. Right. Shall we get back to theme then? Yeah, why not? So the Grey Lady Ghost. So the story goes, as I mentioned, the hospital was actually run by this group of monks and nuns. And this legend that we have here in York was that there was a young apprentice nun who took a bit of a shine to one of the local gentlemen within the city, and she embarked on an illicit affair with him and eventually became with child. So she confided to her mother superior, who was absolutely outraged at what she had done. So as absolute punishment, she was going to suffer the worst fate imaginable. She and her unborn child were to be walled up alive in a windowless cell and effectively left there to rot. She was put in pretty much what you would think of as an oubliette, where she's actually placed in a place and forgotten about. And this is the story, and you can actually go into the room where supposedly her cell was based, which is the Carrigan Room, which is situated, it's used as a private function room, and it's just situated just to the right of the entrance to the backstage. And in that room, you can see some of the old original archways of St. Leonard's Hospital. And right in the centre, there's a great big stone pillar. Well, I was shown that at the very bottom of this pillar, you can actually see some inscriptions that have been graffitied onto the pillar. And supposedly these inscriptions were placed there by the very nun herself. But it's supposedly her spirit that roams the auditorium and the dressing rooms backstage. In fact, quite some years ago, there was a dress rehearsal that was taking place of Dear Octopus, and around about 15 cast members were doing a dress rehearsal on stage to what they thought was an empty auditorium. Well, in the middle of the scene, all 15 actors happened to look up at the dress circle, and gliding, not even walking, gliding from right to left at the very back behind all the rows of seats on the back on the dress circle was in fact this figure of a lady in a grey dress, and she just seemed to be floating around from one side to the other. And it's this story that has inspired the York Gin Grey Lady, which was only released just last summer to celebrate the theatre's 275th birthday. So they did have exclusive rights to the Grey Lady Gin for some time, but now you can purchase it online at York Gin, and most places now I think will tend to sell it as well. So that is the legend and the story. Now
I think she's been quite lenient, to be honest, having had such a horrid
has. Surprisingly,
actually very nice, isn't she?
Yeah, it said that her spirit is actually quite a calming and peaceful spirit, and she doesn't mean to cause any trouble or distress whatsoever.
People are actually glad to see her, from what we hear.
They are, yes. So this particular cast that I was talking about, Dear Octopus, they opened the very next night, had such a successful run that it's now become part of the legends of York that if you see the Grey Lady during rehearsals, it means that you're going to have a really good show. But I had a friend who worked at the Theatre Royal until, unfortunately, just a few months ago, he actually passed away. And this was a gentleman called Brian. If Richard's still there, he knows all about Brian. He was a lovely gentleman who would sign people in and out backstage in the days when I used to do theatre, which is many years ago. I used to do theatre, and then I became a wench instead. Far more fun. You can get away with being drunk all the time. You can't do that on stage, as I found out. And every time I was working backstage at the Theatre Royal, I'd always get Brian to tell me the same story over and over again because I loved hearing it. Brian was this lovely, sweet man who had been working at the theatre for quite some years. And one day he was asked to actually stay behind till the early hours of the morning because they were having a lot of workmen coming out the building. They were doing some work backstage. And he decided, yeah, no, I'll stay. That's fine. So after he'd signed everybody in, got to about 3 o'clock in the morning, he said, no one's leaving. No one's going anywhere. I'm going to have a bit of a snooze backstage. So he went into dressing room number 1, which if you are familiar with the York Theatre Royal, dressing room number 1 was typically Berwick Kaler, the famous dame of the York Theatre Royal pantomime. That was typically his dressing room. And he actually used to have a bed set up. So as you walk... I know, yeah. You need to relax in between shows. So we had a bed there. And as you'd walk into the dressing room, you see the row of mirrors and the lights in front of you. And the bed was situated just to the right of the door. So we'd settled in for the night. And he said he woke up with no explanation as to why he woke up. And just as he was sort of wiping the sleep out of his eyes, he said it was still sort of pretty late on in the early hours of the morning. Dawn hadn't yet peaked. He just happened to notice that the door of the dressing room's gradually opening up in front of him. And as the door opened fully wide, in walked the figure of a lady in a grey dress with a grey habit. You could only see her in profile, but as she walked into the room, he said that she was making some sort of gesture as if she was sort of sweeping the floor. And the bizarre thing about this whole situation is that Brian said he didn't feel scared at all. He thought it was odd, but he didn't feel a sense of terror, unlike Harry over at the Treasurer's house. So as this figure walks into the room, she suddenly stops what she's doing and looks over to Brian. And that's where he said he saw her full on, that actually where her face should have been was just basically a gaping black hole. There was actually no facial features whatsoever. But despite it, he got the impression that she was just as surprised to see him as he was to see her.
Ew, not much comfort though, is it?
No, still, I don't know how I'd react. I mean, Brian was very calm. I certainly wouldn't have been. And he said that after she clocked him, the figure just turned on a heel, walked out the door, and the door just gradually shut behind her. And Brian was like, that was my encounter with the great lady ghost.
Oh my
I think
God.
with that in mind, I'm going to take a quick swig just to steady my nerves.
Yeah, I'm back on the Roman fizz, dear Lord.
So there we have it, the famous story of the Grey Lady Ghost.
Honestly, that's a great story. I would love to.
Isn't it a good story? You're getting a lot of exclusives with me tonight. Not many other
That's
people know these
fantastic.
stories.
That's fantastic.
People tend to confide in me for a lot of things.
Oh my goodness, I would love to see her. You must be exhausted.
No, I wouldn't. No. No, it's too scary. No, thank you.
She's nice. She likes people.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, but
I'd rather meet her than the Roman soldiers.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Shall I bring you back to the world of the living then?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, why not? We'll move on to the next tale, the land of the living. We're going to head just around the corner from the Theatre Royal, and we're heading towards the church just next door to York Minster. There is a church called St. Michael le Belfry. There it is in all its splendour. It's a magnificent church. Now, this is the site of one of British history's most important historical characters, because at the Church of St. Michael le Belfry, there's a rather interesting name that appears on the baptismal register on the 16th of April, 1570. Any ideas who this famous Guy might be?
Oh, famous guy.
Guy Wilson.
Guy, yeah.
No idea who that is, but no.
That's my nephew.
Who could it be?
Who could it be? Susannah knows, don't you?
No, because I'm about to make you a cocktail all about him. There it is. Look, there we go. Here, I can't say it. I haven't got the specs on. Hereabouts lived the parents of Guy Fawkes of Gunpowder Plot fame, who was baptised at St Michael of Elfrey Church in, does that say 1570? That's very good without my glasses, I have to tell you that. So yes, I am going to, before we get into the grisly details, I'm going to make you a beautiful cocktail. And it's going to be called the Fawkes Firework. So first of all, I'm going to use my Tom Collins glass. That is a long glass, and I'm going to just put some ice in it. Which is nothing, but luckily it's just enough for this one, so that's fine. So there we go. I've got some ice in my glass. The next thing I'm going to add, and I'm going to use York Gin Old Tom. I'm going to use Old Tom because it's very rounded. It's got a little hint of sweetness in there. You've got some White Rose of Yorkshire. Obviously, we have to have the White Rose of Yorkshire in there for poor Guy Fawkes. And I know we're going to hear that he went to St Peter's School, but I know several directors of York Gin went to St Peter's School, so we don't burn old guys. Right, here we go. York Gin Old Tom. In there, I'm going to put a double measure. Now, if I was doing this normally, I probably might put a bit more, but we'll be good today. There we go. We'll put another one in there. We'll put another. So there is some York Gin Old Tom going straight into my glass, which I've already filled with ice. Now, since it's bonfire night, I'm going to put a little bit of toffee sauce. Now, I've been terribly smart today and bought some Juice salted caramel, which sounds really grand, but it's nice and liquid. So actually, I'm going to pop that in there. I'm just going to put, actually, you know what? I'm going to put 2 teaspoons because it looks like it needs 2 teaspoons. That's what I'm going to do. Here we go. And next, I'm going to put my lemon juice. So that's just 1 measure of lemon juice is going in there. I'm going to give that a little stir. I want that toffee, that's got salted caramel, just to go into that Old Tom gin. There we go. And I'm going to top it with some apple juice. It is literally bonfire night in a glass. I'm going to top that with some apple juice. And I've made, I do hope it stands the test of time, I have made a seriously fancy apple wheel. Oh, come on, go on, you can do it.
Ooh!
I know, look at that.
That looks fantastic. I'm glad I didn't have that one. I'd have cocked that up.
I'm going to take out the stirrer and I'm going to put a straw in there. So there is my Fawkes firework. Cheers, everyone.
Ooh, that looks great.
That
looks great. Oh,
I think it's very nice. I also like the fact that you can actually put apple in it. So with my apple, my strawberries, my lemon, I've already had my 3 a day.
Do you know what?
Yeah, it's still very healthy. It's a very healthy show.
Very healthy. Quite extraordinary because what I'm actually getting is gin and salted caramel, which is literally gin and salted caramel. It's a match in heaven. Yes.
It's brilliant.
I thought it sounded like a toffee apple. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a ginny apple.
Ginny apple.
Do you remember when we used to have the fireworks in Yorks? They were great. Why can't we bring them back?
Oh, I know. Go on, Alice. Mad Alice. Tell us the tale.
Oh. Hang on, I'm eating. Stall for time.
Stall for time. Have we got a picture of the? Oh, there they go. I was going to say, we've got a picture of the directors.
This is Harry and Paul, and they both went to St Peter's School, where, in fact, Guy Fawkes went. It was free in those days. It's not free now.
Not quite so free now, is it?
It's quite expensive now, but they don't have any bonfires. They don't burn their old boys, do they?
They do not. No, they are one of the few places in the country that when they have a bonfire, they don't have a guy for the bonfire.
I'm loving this.
I know. I'm loving all of it. It's all merging into one now. I'm not going to lie, but it's great.
But I'm still on that. What can I say? It's all sad at my end. I'm waiting for the next one.
Jo, is it a dry do?
No, not dry, but I'm waiting for the next one.
Well, mine's not a dry do. Look at me. I'm quadruple parked again.
No, you should drink some of it then.
I've drunk loads of them all.
Me too. And I even put double measures in. So
Mad Alice. Should we start calling you Madder Alice?
Madder Alice.
Yeah, Madder Alice. There's a reason I'm called Mad Alice to begin with. Why not? Why not? Let me tell you about Guy Fawkes then, because I'm with you now and I'm on the zone. So Guy Fawkes, we all know. Jo's gone.
I know I'm here. I'm just looking down. I'm just getting comfy.
She's losing it. She's gone.
Salted caramel.
So we all know the rhyme, don't we? Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. Do you know what comes next?
I do.
Oh, you would.
We see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
Oh, she's on it. Even with a few Roman fruits in her, she's on it. Very good, very good. Yeah, absolutely right. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Guy Fawkes, because he's commonly thought of as being one of the main conspirators of the gunpowder plot. But this is where I come in, and I'm here to educate you and entertain you that he was not originally part of the original gang of the conspirators. You can see the conspirators there. The actual mastermind behind it was Robert Catesby, who's the gentleman who's second in from the right, and you can see him actually talking to Guido Fawkes. But I want to draw your attention to 2 figures a bit further down the line, John Wright and Christopher Wright. Now, these are 2 brothers that also attended the Free School of St. Peter's. Now, when Guy Fawkes was born, he was born in 1570 and baptised into what was actually the Protestant church at the time. Very important. I'm going to come back to that later in the story.
I was going to say, I thought he was a Catholic.
Exactly. Well, when he was 21, he went to go live in Spain, and that is where he adopted the name of Guido, as he's sometimes referred to. But more importantly, he decided to join the Catholic Spanish army, and this is where he learned the art of explosives, which is coming so handy, not as you could argue, in later life.
You didn't end. No spoilers.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. Might give the game away, but yeah, you get the gist. We all know what happened on that fateful evening of November the 4th, 1605. Guy Fawkes was captured red-handed underneath the Houses of Parliament, surrounded by 36 barrels of gunpowder. Not the 36 barrels of gin that I'm surrounded by. And he was boiled in the gunpowder plot. The plot designed to blow up the Houses of Parliament on its state opening of November the 5th. And it would kill the king, King James I, the Protestant king, who was due to be in attendance that day. Well,
James VI of Scotland, by the way. James VI. James VI of Scotland. James I of England.
Very good. Oh, she knows her history.
Oh, she's on it.
She knows her history. Very good, Susannah. Well, he was taken away to the Tower of London, and he gave his name as John Johnson. Yeah, original. And yeah, he'd obviously had a bit too many gins that he couldn't remember a decent name to come up with. So John Johnson. Yeah, that one. I'm that person. And he was taken away to be put to the question. I say that in inverted commas. He was actually to be tortured to within an inch of his life. So they took him by the wrists. They took him by the ankles and they placed him on the rack. The wheel would be turned. There's the illustration of it. The wheel would be turned and the victim would be stretched and stretched and stretched. Do you know how long he actually lasted on the rack?
Oh, I hope not too long. That's horrible.
I'm going to go for 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, you've got no stamina, Susannah, whatsoever. Then
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
The price is right, higher or lower than 2 hours?
I'd have told them everything when they showed me the manacles. I'd have said, yep, here we go.
They'd offer you a gin and you'd be like, yeah, you can have all the information you need. I know what you're like. Exactly. He actually lasted 3 days on the apparatus until eventually his arms had been stretched so much that they actually popped from his sockets and were rendered useless for the rest of his days. To show you the amount of damage that they actually did inflict on Guy Fawkes, we have an image of the signatures of Guy Fawkes, signed Guido Fawkes. You can see the top there is his normal signature. The bottom one is after he had been placed on the rack for all those days. So you can see not only the physical decline of him, but you can also see the mental decline in him as well with that one signature. Well, he confessed to everything. He told them exactly where to find his co-conspirators. And for this, by telling them all the information, do you know what his reward was?
Oh, tell us.
Hanging.
Yeah. He was to be publicly executed outside of Westminster on January 1606. Now, as he had been sentenced for the crime of high treason against the God-appointed king, an example had to be made of his death. So his exact sentence was such: he was to be dragged to a place of execution. He would then be hanged by the neck. He would be cut down while still alive, then have his privy parts cut off and burned before his grave. His innards will be taken out and burned also. I need to be careful because you might be bringing that gin up again. And then eventually he would be quartered, each of his limbs going to the four corners of the country, and his head, do you know what we do with traitors' heads?
Stick them on pikes.
Yeah, we do. We stick it on a spike. On a spike.
You're
And
laughing.
the
It must be
spike-
over.
Oh, it's great. This spike would be placed so that all the world can see this is what happens to traitors. Well, as you can imagine, Guy Fawkes did not like the sound of this one bit.
No.
No. So, when he was taken out to the scaffold and the noose was placed about the neck, he actually climbed up his own scaffold, and rather than allowing the topstone to twist and tilt the ladder, he actually jumped to his death. By doing so, he broke his neck and died straight away.
I can't blame him for that, though, darling.
Not at all.
That's awful.
That's my face. Do you like it?
That's
It's a good face.
awful.
That was
That's
very,
my face, Jo. That's my face.
honestly, theatrical training, not wasted. Not wasted.
Thank you. Thank you. But even though he had, in fact, jumped from the ladder, this didn't stop the authorities going through what they originally had planned. So they still cut down his body, now dead. They still chopped off his bits, pulled out his intestines, burned it all in a pile. Then they quartered him. His limbs going to the four corners of the country, and the head would be placed on top of London Bridge for all the world to see that this is what King James I does with his traitors.
Ooh.
Gross.
I know, it's great, right? You see, I've got these lovely, charming bedtime stories for you.
We'll never sleep a wink tonight, will we, Jo?
Absolutely not. I have to say, what you say about bedtime stories, I used to blooming love this kind of gore when I was a kid. I was like, I've kind of grown out of it now, but I loved hearing all this sort of really awful human stories.
What do you mean you've grown out of it? You've done the tour more than once with me.
Do you
You
think,
should be loving it even more.
do you think it might be because of the gin?
Maybe. My
It
mum
might
used
be because of me. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? I'm an
Mama-
experience to remember.
I love it. So after that,
So that is
horrible
one.
to now. I think we need to move on very swiftly.
Where
It's
are we
great.
going
That's
next,
the tale
Madeleine?
of one of the city's most famous characters. But I'm going to take you back to the very beginning where we started outside the city walls on the racecourse. There is the picture of the gallows, the York Tyburn. Because we have saved the best story till last. And not only have we saved the best story till last, we've also saved, let me grab it, one of the best gins for
I
us.
saw you. Look at her. She's having a bit of all.
Oh, God. Oh, why not? Why not? Go for it.
My
But
sister Jackie used to call that a hungry mouthful. We saved a bit of everything till then and just go, mum, 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 mum.
My little stash.
down in one. Down in
Shame on
one.
you.
Down in
Shame
one.
on you.
This was my favourite. I love the salted caramel in this one. This is absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
No, my favourite so far has been the Bloody Alice.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
thank-
really like that.
yeah, I like the Blue Ghost. I think that's my favourite. I think we
No,
should
I
bring
can't
Blue
comment.
Caraco
I've got
next.
no,
You're way behind. Go get on.
I've
Jo.
got no bloody blue curacao. I can't comment.
Crack on. I'm sure there's something else to be done now.
Well, this is the one that we all like, isn't it? This is the York Gin Outlaw. Now, because York Gin. Visit York are a big supporter of our gins and also my tour as well. So we'll give them a little shout out tonight. But the York Gin, they created this outlaw gin. It's only just over a year old, isn't it? It was only created last March, and it's to celebrate the Outlaws gin. The reason it is called Outlaw because it is 57%.
And Alicia, if you come into the shop, it's always pronounced outlaw.
Outlaw. Okay. Well, I like the fact that York Gin actually have a disclaimer for this gin, which I have printed on a tea towel, which I shall hold up. So here is one of the tea towels of York Gin, and it says, if I bring it down so I can actually see, it says serve with ice, tonic, and care. I'm not going to lie, at this point in the game, that information, that advice is about as useful as a fart in the wind. So if you are still standing with us, which I'm barely hanging on at the minute, I believe that it is Jo for our final gin for this evening.
I was going to say Outlaw is the only one that Susannah actually does measure before she wangs it into a glass. So I'm just saying that's just a bit of an indication of how strong it is. She measures it. Right, I am going to make you a very famous person who I've never heard of. What am I going to say? Called a Palmer Old Fashioned. Now, we're going to find out from Mad Alice in a minute who Palmer is. Apparently, it's famous, but I've never heard of him. Anyway, we're dedicating this Old Fashioned to Mr. Palmer. Now, you know, if you've met me before, that I am very keen on a massive ice cube because the larger the ice cube, the colder your gin stays, the less dilution you get in your drink. So I'm going to pour that into my old-fashioned glass there. And oh, crikey, Moses, it pretty much fills it. Dear Lord. I'm going, oh no, good heavens above. So we now have as much as you dare of York Gin Outlaw. It's supposed to be one measure, but Nardy. I then have the same amount of dark rum. I actually bought this in Havana, believe it or not, 2 years ago.
Well, so flash.
Yeah, I know. It was great. I love Havana. Havana, oh no. I won't sing anymore because I can't sing. But yeah, so Havana dark rum into there. And then we have 2 dashes of Angostura bitters.
Oh.
Absolutely lovely in any cocktail. Yum, 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 yum. And what else am I looking for? I am looking for a dash of sugar syrup.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there we go. In it goes. I'm just going to stir it up. And and you have to decorate it with some orange peel. And I'm very fancy, very lovely. Ooh. Do you know what? I'm going to cheat because it's supposed to taste very orangey. So I'm going to put a big fat piece of orange in it. A fancy one because that's just the way I roll.
Look at you.
I know, that's just, what can I say? And
Yum nums.
Oh my Lord, that's lovely. What do you think, Mad Alice?
I am loving it. I'm slightly worried because I am in a timber framed building and I'm slightly concerned that the fumes coming off.
It's highly combustible.
Especially with the candles around me.
We had a thing last week in our thing last week, didn't we, Susannah, called the cocktail whispers, which were actually so much fumes going on from a cocktail party that the whole place could just go up.
Brilliant. Oh, I need to be drinking from my left hand, don't I?
You do.
Sorry.
In case you need to shake hands, how do you do?
Okay, there's nobody here, so I'm fine with that problem. That's fine.
Just you and your plague mask then.
Just me and my plague mask in the background. You see, this coronavirus, I was already well and prepared. I've got my pocket full of posies and my plague mask. We're done.
Glory, bloody Mad Alice.
I know, it's great.
Where are we going next?
Well, we are on the race course. We are at the gallows because the gallows have been at the racecourse since the 13th century and were used right the way through until the 1850s. There is an illustration of the actual gallows, which we called the York Tyburn, named after the Tyburn hanging tree down in London. But we also gave it a more affectionate nickname by the locals, which we called it the Three-Legged Mare. Now, there is actually a pub in town called the Three-Legged Mare. Nothing to do with a wonky donkey. That's the name of the gallows. And you can see it's basically a tripod constructed about 10 feet above the ground. So you'd be able to have multiple criminals, both men and women, we don't discriminate in York, on each of the 3 beams.
Oh my God, are you telling me they did more than one at a time?
Absolutely. In fact, it was so popular, was going down to see these executions, that they used to have pamphlets of the day of the list and the times of when you could see these criminals being hanged. It was good family fun entertainment for all. I wish they'd bring those days back. I do miss them. You say we have it easy nowadays.
I'm just gonna drink.
But you can see in the centre of the three-legged mare, you can see the ladder, which the condemned man or woman with the noose about their necks had to climb up their own ladder, and it would be the topsman's duty, stood at the bottom of the ladder, that would have to twist and tilt you. So
the Watsman.
What we call the topsman is what he was called. The topsman, yes. So that was specifically for hangings. So I'm going to tell you, as you can imagine, being used from the 13th century until the 1800s, we've seen a lot of criminals come and go, mainly go, from the gallows. And one of its most famous occupants is the one whose cocktail we are drinking in honour and the name of John Palmer.
Yay! He's really famous.
You've never heard of him, have you?
Who the blazes is that?
I give up.
You told me to make this cocktail, but I've never heard of him.
I'm going to tell you the story because I bet you might just go, So you ready? Yeah. Feign interest, if not. But John Palmer was originally... He was actually based here in York, and he was arrested one evening for disturbing the peace. He shot a cockerel. I'm thinking of because I'm thinking of chocolate. I'm drunk now, so I need chocolate. That's what I'm thinking of. Shot a cockerel, and he threatened to shoot somebody else. So they decided they would lock him up for disturbing the peace. Whilst he was waiting for his trial, he decided to write a letter. That's how you write a letter to his brother-in-law.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Based down in Essex. So he wrote the letter and he sent it off. But this is before the postal system that we have nowadays. Nowadays, if we write a letter, we have to pay for the stamp, stick it on, send it off. And it would actually be the receiver of the letter that would have to pay for the delivery charge. Now, when the letter arrived at the postmaster's office down in Essex, the gentleman who the letter was addressed to was summoned for, and he was asked to pay for the missing stamp. This gentleman took one look at the postal mark of York. He said, I don't know anyone in York. Actually, he was in Essex, so he had a dodgy accent. Hang on, you ready? I don't know anyone in York. I never paid his letter.
I ain't paying it. Get out of my pub.
Yeah, get out of my pub. We're all about family. So that's how they talk down in Essex. Apologies for anyone who is actually watching.
How they talk.
You know full well that's how you talk. I talk properly, just so you know.
Get out of my pub.
Get out of my pub. So the letter remained with the postmaster, who amazingly recognised the handwriting. And he thought, hang on.
That's a bit extraordinary.
I'm a Newton bitter. I recognise this handwriting because I went to school and I taught this person how to write at school. This is not the handwriting of a John Palmer, which is why you've never heard of him. This is, in fact, the handwriting of that notorious and most wanted criminal, Dick Turpin. You've heard of him now,
I've heard
haven't
of
you?
him.
Famous highwayman. Look, there we have the lovely Pete of one of the York Gin directors dressed up as Turpin. And I'm not going to lie, that day he was doing that furry photo shoot, he really liked the outfit. Yeah, we really had to force those boots off him because he just didn't want to go home. There he is, Turpin. He was loving this day. Now, incidentally, if you do decide to order York gin and you live in York and you do get the free delivery, it will be Pete delivering this gin. We should start a campaign to get Pete to deliver the gin dressed as this. He was
Mad Alice, stand and deliver.
Stand and deliver. There we go. There's the York gin.
Highwayman.
The famous highwayman. So other than what I've told you, speaking of standing and deliver, what else do you know about Dick Turpin?
Oh,
Your money or your life?
Money on your life, stand and deliver. That's a little bit Adamant. Also, Richard O'Sullivan, if you know who he is. It wasn't actually the real Dick Turpin that said that. He was not the dashing highwayman that we think and know of today. That was actually a Victorian invention. William Harrison Ainsworth wrote a book in 1840 called Rookwood.
Susannah said Black Bess.
Black Bess. The horse Black Bess. Well, I'm going to get onto that in a moment because the famous horse that he rode from London to York in a day did not, in fact, it did take place, but it wasn't Turpin. And he didn't even have... What's this? Is that how you
me riding Black Bess?
After a few gins, you ain't going to stay on there for very long. But no, he did not, in fact, have a horse called Black Bess. Again, this is part of the Victorian novelist's idea of what Dick Turpin actually was. He was not the dashing highwayman. He was about 5 foot tall, stocky build, butcher by trade, badly scarred by smallpox, and from Essex, so did have that very dodgy accent.
Oh, a real winner then.
Yeah, a right looker, absolutely. And he was actually executed, not for the crime of highway robbery, as we know him today. He was in fact executed for the crime of horse stealing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit of an anticlimax, but naturally, because he didn't have Black Bess, so he just used to nick everybody else's horse. And he was taken out to the gallows at the racecourse on the 7th of April, 1739. There he met his maker and followed in the footprints of Guy Fawkes, because when that noose was placed about his neck and he had to climb up the ladder, what did Guy Fawkes do when he got to the top of that ladder?
He jumped.
He jumped. He cheated the authorities. He left this world for good. But I know that we have overrun. This is what I told you at the very beginning. The gin tours never last how long they're meant to last, because I'm still drinking all my gin.
Mad Alice.
Yes.
What was one for the road?
I'm going to get onto that. We have quite a few expressions that we have. One of them, most famously, is pulling your leg. And this is because if you were left to dangle at the end of the rope, hopefully you would have friends or family that would jump on your body to break your neck, pull you down.
Oh,
Pulling your leg. We've got penny for old rope, which...
That's
yeah, it is indeed. But penny for old rope, the hangman could actually sell the nooses that had hanged famous criminals over the years. But as you said, 1 for the road, or in our case, 6 for the road, actually comes about because you were allowed to have one final drink on your way up to the gallows.
right, like a last meal, like a last supper.
Exactly, and it would be paid for by the state as well. There you go. There's me giving Dick Turpin his 1 for the road there. It was more than one, I can tell you that. But to finish our talk tonight, I have one final story for you, and it relates to the 1 for the road. So we do have a story of a local man who's been taken up to the gallows. He was offered his final drink. I have no idea which one this is. He said, and he was offered the drink, and he said, "No, I've never touched a drop of alcohol in my life." It's hard to believe it was local. Just get to the gallows, get it over and done with. 5 minutes later, he'd left this world for good. God rest his soul. 10 minutes after they cut down his now lifeless body from that rope, a young boy arrived in the crowd holding his reprieve. He was about to be let off for the crime. So had he stopped for his final drink, he would have lived a little bit longer to tell the tale. So the moral of the stories, ladies and gentlemen, is never pass up the opportunity for a final drink. It might save your lives.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, indeed.
Cheers.
You see, I have valuable life lessons to learn with this.
Mad Alice, you have been extraordinary. We have loved having you here at York Gin. We salute and applaud you. You have been extraordinary.
Thank you very much.
Honestly, none of us are open at the moment. There's nothing we can do. We're not open.
Great. And I must confess, I am, as they say, slewed. It's great.
That's always what we want here at our York Gin Friday nights. Thank you to Mad Alice. Thank you to everybody at York Gin. Thank you to Emma and to Bryony and to Guy, especially this week, and to Will. We've had power cuts galore. It's been a very strange old week. Thank you so much, everybody. All that's left for me to say is to thank you to my beautiful, beautiful co-host, Jo, who's extraordinary. Alice, we all salute. I salute you with all 4 drinks. You're extraordinary. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you
very much too.
Hopefully see you all soon. It's www.yorkgin.com and it's also www.bloodytourofyork.co.uk. We can't keep her down. She's a marvellous woman. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We super appreciate it.